How can you change your lifestyle both for yourself and for your family? In this episode, you're going to learn from the founders of Burn Bootcamp how you can make a lasting change to your health and how you can positively impact your family members and your kids to help improve their health. If you're listening on the Apple Podcast app or on Spotify, make sure you hit the follow button. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the newest episodes to get you looking and feeling your best. Today, I had the awesome opportunity to talk with Devan and Morgan Kline. Devan and Morgan are the founders of Burn Bootcamp, which has 403 locations across the nation. Devan is the visionary of Burn Bootcamp. He is also a former professional baseball player turned health and fitness transformation expert and coach. Morgan, on the other hand, is the CEO of Burn Bootcamp and has personally trained more than 5,000 Burn members. They're also husband and wife, and you're going to learn about how to get a family member motivated to value health and fitness if they don't yet already. You'll also get insights into how this couple, who both own a business, they work together, and have 3 kids ages 8, 6, and 4, about how they plan out their time and how they navigate their schedules so that they can make it all happen. For now, it's time to get closer to your best you with Devan and Morgan Kline. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Best You podcast. Today, I am super excited to be joined by Devan and Morgan Kline, founder and visionary and CEO of Burn Bootcamp. Really excited for you guys, for y'all's new book that at the time of this recording just launched, and at the time of the podcast release will have recently just launched. It's called Burn, the Burn Bootcamp 5-Step Strategy for Inner and Outer Strength. I can't wait to read it myself. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I've looked a lot into it. And I want to start basically to the second of the 5 steps, which is believe. When you guys kind of talk about psychological tools for sustaining lasting change. As a fitness trainer and somebody who's coached hundreds of people myself, I really believe that like changing your identity is really what leads to lasting change. So for you guys, how do you believe we break free from our past identity to form a new identity?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Like you said, as a fitness trainer and someone who's been in the industry, the working out is only one component of it. And if you don't have it right, in between your ears and in your head and what your beliefs are about yourself first and foremost, then I don't believe you'll ever be able to reach your full potential. So, for me personally, the journey that I've been on, self-identity and identifying new versions of myself, I had to really break away from what I thought I needed to be because of society. And there's so many pressures that we go through in life, whether you're a male or a female. But I know the first time that I felt that way was when I stepped into the fitness industry and I wanted to be a trainer and I thought I needed to look a certain way to have that credibility. And then, identity comes again when I have my first kid and then my second kid and my third kid. And so I think for me, it's been disconnecting what I want others to think of me and how I want to place myself in a box that society says I need to be in, and really just paving my own path of what makes me happy every single day. What do I believe in? Because if I can't believe in myself first and love myself first, then I can't expect anyone else to do that. And that to me is just a recipe for unhappiness. And I see that a lot in our membership, which is primarily women, where we're holding on to something that's not truly who we want to be. It's not authentic to who we are. And so we're out of alignment with how we run our day and how we go about reaching our goals. So the belief strategy, like you said, number 2 is one of the most important ones. And it's one of the most hardest and challenging ones to get through.
Yeah, knowing yourself is a very difficult task, right? There's a lot of preconceived notions, history, a lot of conditioning, a lot of future ideas. And the hardest thing to do is to stay present, right? And so we talk about a lot in the fitness industry, about body image, and that's been that way since the mid 70s when Arnold stepped on stage, and started winning Mr. Olympias. And that's just not practical for most people. As fitness gains more popularity, we really wanted to be the company, be the organization that intentionally bridge that gap from the mental to the physical. And so mind body connection has kind of always been there, but like, what does that really mean, right? What that really means, like under the hood, is, the emotional intelligence that we possess to take this physical thing, this act of self-doubt that you have when you're looking at a 25-pound dumbbell thinking, I don't know if I can lift that, right? That the act of overcoming yourself in the moment, in the present moment, is self-actualization. And so what we try to do is use fitness as a metaphor, right? And I'm connecting, kind of body to believe here, burn to believe here, which burn deals with the body, right? And so it's so easy and so tangible for somebody to go work out. Then the trick is for the trainers like you and I to be able to say, okay, now this physical manifestation, what does that mean mentally? What does that mean emotionally? And how does that make you more aware of who you are, where you're at in life, and where you want to go? So it's about emotional intelligence six-pack is what we write about in the book, not necessarily the six-pack that most of us talk about.
Yeah, I like it. And you guys talked about the beliefs in yourself and how that can oftentimes be formed by so much of our past history. And I'm going to give you guys a couple of quick examples. Actually, one person who is getting ready to start as a client with me talked about how she's getting ready to go on this like 1 week work/vacation trip. And the people she's going with, she's like, I know that we always drink a lot when we're together, so I'm worried about falling off track. And then oftentimes people like, no, when I go on vacation or somebody goes out of town, I've always struggled to eat healthy when I do that. What's your message to somebody who has this programming of my past has always been this way, and then they think so that my future will always be this way? What's your message to them to allow them to realize it doesn't have to be that way?
Yeah, I think it's the language you speak to yourself, so it runs in my family, or, this is just what I've always done. Like, well, if you keep believing those things, then you'll keep doing them. So you really have to break that pattern by doing some intentional things that maybe feel silly at the time, but it actually helps, right? When you say things out loud, like, I'm going to eat healthy on this vacation. I'm going to, my past does not define my future. I'm going to break the chain of whatever my mom did or my dad did. And you have to actually believe those things. Otherwise, they're not going to happen. None of that stuff will happen on its own. So you actually have to be the one that is very intentional about that. And then your brain is going to start to believe that, and your actions are going to follow.
Yeah, it's the inner and outer strength, right? You talk inner strength to us is really the things that you can control, and that's your attitudes, that's your efforts. Morgan's talking about attitudes, that's your efforts, that we wake up every day, how hard we work, and your beliefs, your belief system. And I think in order to, like you're talking about, like audit your identity and say, am I who I really want to be? Am I actually the version of myself that I want to be? Or am I living somebody else's version of me? You have to go a step deeper and say, what are my attitudes? And are those my attitudes? What are my beliefs? And are those my beliefs? And am I giving the effort that's in alignment with what I'm saying? And taking an audit of those three things, is the inner world, right? And, that's important, because when it's snowing outside on the football field, right? Like that's the external conditions, but like, the game plan remains the same. The intentionality, the attitude, the effort that you put in. Hey, we're still going to go out and win this game. We're still going to put 100% effort on every single play, and we're going to step on the field believing that we're here to win, not here to lose. So that it's most people walk in to Burn, our 125,000 members. Most people walk in and they're like, their first day, they want to get more fit or more toned, or they got a vacation. They have and that's great, because that's introducing them to what we're going to help them do is round out the lifestyle. And that's what the book is all about with the 5 pillars.
Yeah, no doubt. Usually it's like a external thing to start, and then we need to realize how it needs to dive into the internal. And I think that's where I want to go next, right? You guys talk about how the 4-step achieve, it's helping people setting specific emotionally attached North Star goals. Talk to me what you guys mean when you say North Star goals and what that actually looks like.
Yeah. So, you have this chapter, the Achieve chapter, is the first time that we really introduce the Burn lifestyle, which is 8 pieces. It's body, mind, emotion, spirit, relationships, time, work, and money. And those 8 pieces of the pie, right, are like the daily rituals that we divide up into. And those are things that we work on. It's the activity that we have every day. And so we teach like the short and the long of it, right? And the short of it is the short term is to say, okay, actually, let's start with the long term. So the long term is the North Star vision, right? And this is really made of two things. Most times you're going to hear goal setting, goal setting, goal setting. And it's so common. It becomes white noise. Almost nobody does it, but it's important because you can't hit what you can't see. And so we've got to find something that's emotionally driven. So how do we do that? Because without emotion, there's no motion. So how do we do that? Two ways. It's push and pull motivation, what we write about in the book. So push motivation is from behind. Like use your memory, go back. What experiences did you have that you want to run away from that made you feel guilt and shame? And this is hard for people because you're recalling harshness, you're recalling a negative experience, but you're utilizing that to say, I'm never going to experience that again. And almost that's more real than the kind of reticular activation that you do in your prefrontal cortex of visualizing the future and saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to not only think the thoughts of what I'm going to do in the future, but I'm going to experience it through feeling. Yes, you can get there, and that's important. And that's the pull motivation. But if you have both, then you're force multiplying your chances of getting to where you want to go. And then every day it's the eight pieces of the pie I mentioned. And what one single ritual do you do every day that's a non-negotiable for all of those things? Is it to say I love you on the phone, and that's a non-negotiable? Is it to anchor yourself in your workout so you actually are prioritizing yourself on your schedule? And we could talk about all eight pies, but all eight pieces of the pie, but you get the gist of it. And so that's the whole Achieve chapter, is to help the percentage of people that take goal orientation seriously, is to help increase that percentage.
And I think there's a lot of people that are walking around without an actual North Star or a vision just for what the next version of their life looks like. And so this is a great way to give them those the why, but then the practical tips of how to set those goals and achieve those goals, because otherwise you're not designing your life. Life is just going to happen to you. And a lot of people just haven't accepted that they are in control, if they allow themselves to be, but it has to be with intention. You can't wake up every day without that plan.
So I'll give you a sneak peek from the book. And so that everybody that's listening now can kind of do this exercise without needing to buy. You can go much deeper in the book, obviously. But if you were to close your eyes and ask yourself the question, if I had zero limitations, if there were no consequences for my action, if money wasn't a priority, what would I wake up and do what would one day that I must repeat over and over and over, what would that day look like from top to bottom through the lens of those eight pieces of the pie? What would my body do? What would my mind do? Emotion, relationship, blah, blah, blah. And so we want to make sure in the book that we actually have an exercise to show you what it's going to take to actually put what's in your head and maybe some desire down on a piece of paper, because that one act of thought to paper, permanency, there's a reason books are everlasting and the knowledge in them are everlasting, because you can go recall it now and you don't have to remember it.
I love that exercise. I love the exercise, and I love the push and pull motivation for sure. I kind of utilize the same thing, and I say like the thing that you want to avoid provides you with urgency, but then the vision provides you with direction in the area in the way you want to move. So that's great. The fifth step is connect, and I'm huge on community. I'm not going to spend too much time on community today, though. I kind of want to go down the route of your significant other, because I know that I feel very blessed. I'm engaged. I have a fiance who is very into health and fitness, and that is like a huge value for both of us. And I feel very blessed that is, because it just makes it so much easier for both of us. And probably same thing for you guys, right? Like both of you guys value health and fitness. And so makes it easier for each one of you to prioritize that in your own life. But for some people, that's just not the case, right? And you guys probably deal with that a lot too, is like some people are coming to Burn Bootcamp and they're super dedicated, but man, they can't get their spouse, or their spouse is just very disinterested. What is your either piece of advice or recommendation to either try to get the person interested or have health as more of a value in that person's life? I guess just how do you navigate helping people when one piece of the puzzle, one significant other is very into it and one of them is very much not?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And like you said, it happens a lot. And we we've heard several stories of just that. And that's why I do think finding a gym community is important, because maybe you don't have that at home, but you still need something that's going to pull you to the gym, those accountability buddies that are going to kind of supplement. But I get it. When you walk back into the house, it's like, it feels like you're fighting against something that you don't want to, especially with someone that you love so deeply. And so my advice for someone would to just keep doing you. And that might sound a little harsh, but like keep eating healthy, keep working out, be consistent. Your spouse is going to see how that changes you. And there will be a point where it motivates them. At least I believe there will be a point if that's something that, is in their future. But I don't think you can change people. I don't think you can bring somebody to the gym and have motivation for them. If they don't want it themselves, then they won't do it. But as long as you can keep showing them that consistency is bringing a better attitude, positivity, just joy in your own life, they're going to be attracted to that. And they're going to be like, oh, okay, I see this change in you. I want that too. Like, I do want that. And it might take them a long time to kind of sit back and say, what's this all about? Or is it going to last? But I've heard several stories of now men, but we call them burn bros, who have come to the gym through their wife, and they'll say, she kept inviting me to camp, but I thought it wasn't for me. But then I started to see the transformation in my own wife, and I was like, all right, I got to do that. And then once they did it, they were like, oh, I get it, because then now they're experiencing that joy and that feeling after you work out. So that would be my advice, is to just keep focusing on you and let your light shine.
Yeah. And I think it's frustrating a lot of times unless you've heard that message before, because if you hadn't heard that message, then you automatically default to, oh, I'm excited that I'm getting into this new thing and my partner is going to see it right away and they're going to come with me. And you have this like vision of what your blueprint is, and they're just a character in your story, right? And so what you're really doing is like projecting your expectations onto them. And if you're pressing expectations onto somebody that isn't part of their blueprint, you're only going to get pushback, which is going to increase the frustration. And so if you want zero friction, take Morgan's advice. If you want maximum friction, try to get somebody to do something they don't want to do.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's that's so good. And hopefully, like you said, the energy that radiates from you, from your own transformation and the positivity and everything, that's something that they just desire to have for themselves.
I think it's because people, when they start to connect with themselves, if you're just focused on you, like Morgan said, do you, like psychologically, that's you connecting with yourself. And if you start to connect with yourself, you have to do that before you can even connect with anybody else. And so the thing we want, back to the whole self-actualization we were talking about, becoming, changing your identity, is like, you've got to change your own identity internally before anybody else notices the identity change. And that's what I think Morgan means when, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what you mean when you say they'll just watch you and they'll see you connecting with yourself and they'll be like, you know what? I want that too, but I don't want that because you have it. I want the connection that you have with yourself, with me and myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Is that
really
right
good.
or wrong? What do you think about that?
I think everyone's on their own timeline. And so you can't rush somebody else's timeline as much as you want to try. And this could be with anything, right? This could be spiritually, this could be physically, this could be financially, it can be a lot of areas of your life that you want something so bad for another person. But if they don't want it, like, you got to stay your path. That's super important for your own fulfillment and happiness. And, it will attract the right support around you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think, Devin, the way that I'm kind of thinking about that, I 100% think you're right. It's like, let's say you started improving your habits with your financial health, and somebody else might see you improving your habits. You're not going to be able to convince them to start improving their habits until like you actually have a little bit more money in your bank account. And so it's like, you have to kind of be able to like actually change your identity first and have that self-actualization and actually be more aligned to who you truly are, for them to actually kind of like really feel that from you. But the way I want to kind of transition to is, you guys both have 3 kids. How do you run a business together? What are some like practical things that you guys do as a couple to navigate your schedules as parents, as entrepreneurs, as people who are healthy yourselves and prioritizing it, like what are some things that you do when you're preparing out your week, when it comes to like grocery shopping, when it comes to you taking kids places, like what are some things that you guys do to navigate being able to do it all?
Yeah, so we're pretty strict on our schedules. Both Devin and I have everything that we have to do work-wise has to be on the calendar. And then we block our time off if we want to make sure that we have that kid time or that family time or that connection time. And so every Sunday or during the weekend, we take the time together to just run through calendars and say, here's where I need you, here's where you need me, like, and we just get aligned, and then we just go do it, right? Like you just go execute your week. Obviously there's things that can be flexible within, but we have really great time management skills. And that's been a process for us. You know, we also have the ability now to be very clear on what are the things that we need to be doing and what are the things that we can delegate to our team. So if you are an entrepreneur and you have a team, it's about putting the right people in the right place to trust them to do things. And then constantly taking an audit of your time to say, what are the things that I'm doing that I shouldn't, and vice versa. Because most people just, they want and need that control to do everything. And that's when you're going to find yourself misaligned, overwhelmed, burnt out, because you're just doing a lot of everything. And is it moving the needle? Is it moving the needle for your business, for your family, for your relationships, for yourself? And so once you can really do an audit of your time and stay disciplined to that time management, and make sure we're communicating, that's been the secret sauce for us.
Yeah, and I think practically too, we've also used this exercise. It's called the hat exercise. When Morgan is CEOing, she's a different person than when she is momming, than when she's wifing, than when she's, sistering and being a daughter or being a friend. We all have this kind of built-in under the radar multiple personality disorder where we have to, we're manipulating our personality for our environment. And we all do that. And so if I'm going to have a relationship, that's one that's productive, both from a work perspective and a intimate relationship perspective, I need to know who I'm talking to, right? Because if I don't know who I'm talking to, I can't connect with them. And so I've got to know which personality she's in at which time. So it's like, hat backwards, this is just a joke, but like hat backwards, Devin's trainer mode, like hat forward, Devin is in CEO mode. So we'd say like, what hat are you wearing? And we would just say something simple like, hey, I'm wearing the wife hat right now. Can your vision bomb of what you want to do over the next 10 years, can that wait till I'm like CEOing in our same page meeting? Or is there's, and so you'd have this structure. And then when things come up, you just have that conversation, like almost like, do I have permission to go into this conversation before I just start hammering her with all the problems that I need her to solve in the business, or something to do with the kids. So,
no, I like it.
That's especially important for people that are married and also doing business. And then obviously throw in kids and a family, to like have the boundary to say, hey, we're not in work mode right now. We're in family mode, and but then also creating space. I'll just add one last thing, create the space where we can have those connections. So going back to our calendar, we always make sure there's some time during our workday, or work month or work week. It's not daily, but that we're able to connect and download each other on those things that maybe he wanted to throw at me last night while I was in bed reading, So that's what's worked for us.
And that's work things, personal things, finance, we do a personal 7 minutes on each side to say, hey, how are you feeling personally? 7 minutes, like, let's go. And we call it the same page meeting. And that has been extremely productive because it is that space where no matter what comes at us, we're in the same office right next to each other, but we're on two different tracks. She's on integrating everything down and into the organization. She's working on getting the book into all of the franchise locations, making sure that the goals and the teams are all oriented, that we have marketing in place. I'm on the other side, working with the publishers to even get a publisher, to get an agent, all the net new territory. So visionary and integrator. And if we don't have that time to connect, I'm going to suffocate because I need to talk about ideas, and she is going to suffocate because she doesn't have an opportunity to run the details by me to make sure that we're on the same page. So that has been absolutely phenomenal for our productivity.
I love it.
I love it. It's great. It's great. I love the roles and being specific about that. Love all the planning out calendars and everything. I'm all about that. Kind of last question here. I'm sure that you guys both, when you started having kids, wanted to obviously raise a family where health and fitness was a value and health and fitness was prioritized and stuff like that. If people who are listening to this and they have young kids or going to have young kids sometime soon, and they too want to raise a family that has like a health and fitness family, or they don't have to be trainers or like nutritionists or anything like that, but they want to make sure they value health and fitness, what are some of your tips, both like what practical tips of things to do, things to say that can help parents of young kids foster a value of health and fitness?
Yeah, I'm a big believer that values are caught and not taught, meaning you got to practice what you preach, right? So I can tell my kids, I can teach them, but they're going to catch these values by my actions, right? The way that Devan and I choose what foods we choose to have into the house, how they see us prioritizing exercise and how they prioritize us taking care of ourselves. And I mean, we're to the point where my kids, if I have a Diet Coke, they're like, mom, like I have taught them well. Now they're the ones holding me accountable. But you listen, you can't just tell somebody to be healthy. You've got to live it, and they're going to catch on to that much quicker. We're also very intentional about how we talk about health. It's not, the word fat is not used in our house. I actually feel very strongly about that, especially with our daughter. It's all about what foods can make you stronger and what foods can make you feel better and what foods are going to make you healthy. And we don't deprive our kids of that. We just let them know what those choices are. And so, I mean, there's a ton of tips I could go down the road on, but I really think it's all about look in the mirror, make sure that you're actually living how you would want your kids to grow up. And, I think we're doing a great job, and we have a great opportunity. Like, we have a great gym culture, right? We have a great community. And that's the beautiful thing about what we've built is my kids can walk into our office, into any one of our gyms, and I know they're going to be met with positivity and just healthy relationships, healthy communication. And we're super lucky for that.
Yeah, it's what Morgan's saying translates right across the different areas. And we keep referencing the Achieve chapter, the Burn lifestyle, and those 8 pieces of the pie. If you want, like she's saying, caught not taught. What's the same goes for your career too. Your kids don't mind if you work really hard, if you show up in the evenings and you bust in the door with a big smile and you're like, come here, kids, and you helicopter them in the sky, you pick them up and you make them smile. Sometimes I'll do that and they're not smiling, and I'll keep doing it until they smile, because I know that smile is creating a positive neuroassociation with hard work. So hard work, it's not that kids don't want their parent to be with them all the time, right? 45 minutes with my 3 kids in the playroom is like, dude, you don't need, like, that is quality time. And it's not like we need to spend 8 hours a day with our children in order to feel connected. And so that's how we choose to spend our lifestyle. I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but work makes the world go around. Effort is part of the inner world. So no matter what it is, whether it's a business, you're an entrepreneur, you're working, it doesn't matter. You could be a volunteer. It's the work ethic that really matters. And I want them to see positivity, happiness, smiles, fun associated with hard work. So it's really about harmony in our world, not balance. And the default question is, how do you guys balance it? And it's like, well, we don't, is the real answer. It's you design your lifestyle using the tools that we talked about. And then you say, okay, is this lifestyle that I'm designing going well? What could make it go better? What could I start doing? What could I stop doing? And it's a constant evolution.
Yeah, I love it. Last quick question here is from a practical side of things. When it comes to like nutrition in your family and like dinners, do you guys usually make one dinner that everybody eats? I know sometimes parents are like, my kids are picky, and so I have to make different meals for them, and then it's hard for me to eat healthy. How do you guys practically navigate that situation?
Yeah, I definitely think that has evolved we have kids 8, 6, and 4. So we are a believer of, we do make one meal, but we also have had times where we have like these little spoon meals where they get to pick. And so it's a balance, but the kids are introduced to things multiple times before they don't have to eat it, things like that. We're not super strict with like clearing your plate, because we're trying to associate, are you full? Do you feel satisfied? So for the most part, we're a one meal, and we actually have our own meals, like the Burn Bootcamp nutrition meals. So that's actually what Devan and I eat for dinner. And then I make one meal for the kids. So.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's well said.
That's awesome. That's awesome, you guys. Well, you guys need to make sure you go get the new book that just came out called Burn, the Burn Bootcamp 5-Step Strategy for Inner and Outer Strength. I know we just scratched the surface about really a lot of inner strength stuff, a lot of thinking about psychology and mindset and how to set goals, how to change your identity and all that kind of stuff. So you can probably dive deeper and get a lot of great practical strategies with these 8 different buckets that Devan has been mentioning a number of times. So make sure you go get the book. I'll have it linked in the show notes below, but you can go to burnbootcamp.com/book to grab that. You need to make sure you follow Devan and Morgan on Instagram as well. I'll make sure I have that linked up in the show notes and down in the description below. But is there any other good place that people should go learn more about you guys and support you? Obviously, get the book anywhere that books are sold, but anywhere else?
Yeah, just burnbootcamp.com, and you can kind of navigate there, all of the book, our locations, and you can certainly find us on there as well.
Or download app, and you could take a trial at any of our 403 gyms, and on demand, Burn on Demand rolled out late last year. So now anywhere in the continental US, you can have a subscription on demand.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Hell yeah. Well, you guys, make sure you go get the Burn Bootcamp 5-Step Strategy for Inner and Outer Strength. Make sure you share this episode with a friend or a family member. There was a lot of great stuff here today. Devan and Morgan, really appreciate your time, but that's all we got.
Thanks,
so
Nick.
much, Nick. We appreciate it.
See ya.
That interview was awesome. I loved getting to hear back and forth from Morgan and Devan about their viewpoints and their experiences, especially when it came to navigating their relationship with each other and their family. If you're listening on Spotify or on an Apple Podcast app, make sure you guys hit the follow button. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit like and subscribe, because we're continuing to put some of the most life-changing content out there to help you achieve your health and fitness goals. My personal 3 biggest takeaways from Devan and Morgan were the following. Number 1, you must take control of the beliefs that you have about yourself. Because look, your past doesn't have to define your future, but it's going to if you don't change your beliefs. Number 2, you have to have great time management skills to get it all done and feel good about your life. Because a lot of people might get a lot done, but they also might constantly be stressed out and don't feel on top of it and fulfilled in all areas of their life. So good time management is key. And number 3, values are caught, not taught. Your kids will every once in a while hear what you say, but they'll always see what you do. I mean, I just thought this was an awesome interview with the powerhouse couple, Devan and Morgan. So make sure you guys grab a copy of their new book and begin to implement some of these strategies so that you can continue to get closer to the healthiest version of you and ultimately closer to your best you.